been looking everywhere for you, boy. Don't you ever do that again to me.
It's all about misdirection.
Fine, have it your way.
Hello, dear Animation School audience. We haven't seen you for ages, and today we are back with another bunch of amazing alumni of the animation course taught by our amazing mentor, Edward Kurchevsky. Today we are having Reg Isaac, who is a 2D animator from London. Now he works at Studio BlinkINK. He used to work with such great studios as Cartoon Saloon on an amazing film, Wolfwalkers, as well as Green Eggs and Ham at Warner Brothers and Netflix. The Tiger Who Came to Tea, Channel 4's film. And we are going on a bear hunt, as well as Ethel and Ernest. He also worked with such clients as Warner Brothers.
We have some music.
Someone's ringtone.
Yeah.
What was this? I was so scared.
No, I don't know.
Okay, are we still visible by the audience? No? No? Okay, that is great. My name is Sonia Kondrashova. I'm a current Gobelin student. And I'm going to be your host and interpreter today from Russian into English. You can see links to my personal YouTube channel in the description. It was an advertising. So now I'm going to repeat all the same in English, in Russian, sorry. So our Russian audience and our students can understand, even though I'm sure that a lot of people speak English themselves. It's just in case of precaution. So let's go. Reg, could you please tell a little bit about your background and stuff? But please make pauses because I have to translate you phrase by phrase.
Sure, no worries. So as mentioned, I'm a 2D animator based in London. I've been a 2D animator freelance for about 10 years and full-time as head of 2D animation at BlinkINK for about a year. In that, I started as a junior animator, doing assistant, coloring, effects animation, stuff like that, and worked my way up from junior to mid to lead, and now senioring and supervising. So I'll make a pause there.
Yeah.
Cool. So I've worked in quite a range of different productions, from feature film, short film, music videos, and commercials. Lots and lots of different clients. Probably a couple of them have already been mentioned. But yeah, so I've worked in London as well as abroad as well. I went over to work with Studio 352 in Luxembourg. I've worked in Montreal and freelance for different studios as well from home at the same time. So for example, Space Jam 2 I worked on that from London, even though the studio was based in Montreal, which was quite fun. So yeah, I'll make a pause there as well. Cool. I'm mainly a character animator, 2D traditional character animator. I primarily use TV Paint as my software of choice. Though that being said, I've used quite a few other software as well, Toon Boom, Adobe Animate, things like that. For my area of specialism, I try to prioritize using TV Paint now. It's become more and more sort of industry standard for traditional based projects. Though I would also argue Toon Boom is slowly coming up as well as an industry standard. But they've both kind of got their different pros and cons, what they're good for. Toon Boom is better for kind of longer form projects because you have the ability of creating a library of assets and things. It's also handy. You can do some comp in the software and stuff like that. And with the vector line, it's easier to manage camera moves and tracking. Whereas with TV Paint, it's much more kind of traditional based, with the line work being bitmap and with all the texture brushes and things. I think I'll call that because there's probably a lot of information there.
Okay, yeah, I translated.
You guys hear me still at all? I think my screen's frozen.
No, everything's fine.
Cool. Okay, good. Oh yeah, I'm back now. Cool. Yeah, my TV Paint's having an issue. I've loaded everything up. So yeah, I might drag over the if I can. So should we start having a look at
I think our host will show it's in separate window, so like don't worry about that. You can just say that we're going to feedback and we're gonna launch it. So you're starting like with Anna Alfimova.
Yes.
Можем ли мы показать, пожалуйста, Анна демо?
No, this is terrible! He's ruining the soup!
So Anna told us about her experience. So first of all, before she stumbled upon animation courses by Edward Kurchevsky, she was in completely another sphere of work. She used to be like a fashion designer, but animation has always been in her life because even in her school, she tried something out. She was drawing like pictures and flipping among them. So she tried stuff. And then she got the courses. They took her 1 year to finish. And then now when she looks back, she understands that she would never be able to do something like that before. She had an immense amount of experience from this experience. Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the work, with the feedback.
Cool.
Попрошу хоста перейти на экран.
Just getting it to load at the moment. Let's bring this over because TV Paint's being a bit slow. anyone's got any questions, by all means, you can think of some while there's loads.
How you experience in teaching, for example, when you mentioned that some universities ask you to come, how your experiences look like? You just like spending there like a whole week, or just one day, or you give a lecture, or it's more practical?
So there's different ways and different kind of lectures that I've done before. One kind of lectures that I give to kind of the intro students, the students that are kind of in their first and second years, which is more of a sort of an introduction to how I got to where I am and what I've done as a character animator, and also a basic approach to how character animation is done, or how I approach animation. So things like that. And then I've also done a few workshops where I'll animate in person, and then students will kind of ask what I'm doing as I'm doing it, or if they want to, you know, follow along. I never really recommend to follow along, because you can learn on your own time, you know, doing things. I feel like it's a lot more valuable if you kind of watch and be involved in what's happening rather than doing your own thing. So yeah, they're the kind of the main two different animation teachings I've done. Cool. So I think I'll primarily give feedback through this, just because it seems like TV Paint is being a bit slow today, but that's fine. So I'm going to go through shot by shot, if that's okay. Talk to one on the first one, and then move to the next one, and then the next one.
Yes, perfect.
Cool. So we'll look at this one first. There's some nice performance in here. The first thing that comes to mind is it will be a staging issue or composition. With this background running directly in the middle, this big line, it makes a real harsh segregation between where we want to look on screen, and with the character kind of overseeing that line, and especially as he sits up, his head is decapitated. It's just a bit tricky to kind of get a full silhouette of the character. If we was to push his bum up to here, then have his whole body up here, you'll be able to see an arm here, there'll be some negative space in the background here. I feel like it would read the scene a little better, just in terms of silhouette. Cool. One thing that I would also say is within the poses themselves, it's always a case of trying to make a pose appealing. And one of the things that we can kind of do to help with that, you'll be able to develop this with life drawing. Is, for example, this foreshortened foot that's just here and the shin bone. If I recreate that here, so this is the foot, this is the shin bone. You've kind of closed the line off on this side. So just this line here, and we have the bottom of the heel here, which would kind of indicate that this bone connects in the middle of the foot. One way to help that read a bit better would be have the heel here, but allowing a little breath between this line. So it's not completely closed off. And that way it will just allow the fluidity to go down from the shin and up the foot, just so it makes the drawing feel a little better. Does that make sense? There we go. I might be able to do a drawing. This might be...
I have a life hack for TV Paint, how you can do that. I mean, how you can easily convert this imported layer into Paint that it's going to read like faster. You have to merge. You have to merge two layers. I mean, this imported layer and new one together, and TV Paint will recognize that layer that was imported as a normal layer that you already.
I should be fine.
Okay, it's working right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, it's this line here that just closes this off and makes it feel almost like a cutout shape on top of it. If we was to draw the foot here, and then have the toes. By having this gap here, we allow just a little bit more fluidity in the motion. Obviously, the proportions are a bit out of whack, but hopefully that you'll be able to understand what I mean by that. Yeah. So something like that, where we have a bit of gap, and that way it helps show that this is in front of this, and it gives a bit more depth of field, so we get the perspective. No, there's some nice elements in performance. I'd say it might be nice to have a touch more ease on some of the keys. We kind of snap into a couple of them. It might be nice to have some overshoots and some settles. So for example, on the first turn, there's a slight ease. Let's go back. So I'd have just one more pose or one more frame in between those two, just to settle him into that a little, because it's just a bit abrupt. If it is going to be abrupt, then there'd be more overshoot as he kind of really swings into that pose. That's loading. Maybe I'll pause there for a second. Say one more thing in this turn. Let's get to it. Here we are. So I think your keys are working really well, but a couple of the in-betweens lose some of the arcs. So on this shoulder, I like to think of the shoulders as, think of a coat hanger. So the bottom of the coat hanger is here, and then the top, and then this is where it connects to the route. This is like a pin. So if the weight is going one way, then the other side of the coat hanger needs to go up. If the weight's going this way, then this side of the coat hanger needs to go up. It can be within the shoulders independently, or it can be within the spine. And so as we tilt from the pelvis, one shoulder goes up naturally, even without moving the shoulders. So here, for example, when he raises his arm, this shoulder is going to go up naturally. So I'll pause there. I'm having some issues trying to draw. Oh well. You get what I mean. Cool. No. The one thing I'd say here is the head feels a little stuck to the chest here. It's nice to kind of have some lean with the neck, some fluidity within the neck sometimes. Because, and also the tricky thing is when animating a character that we know and recognize, we're going to always compare to what we know the character design to look like. So we're always going to notice little quirks like this, which is why sometimes it's nice to animate characters that we don't recognize. But just within here, the neck becomes quite short and stiff. And again, I'd also say similarly to the foot, I'd put just a gap, a break in the line here, so that the neck feels attached to the head.
Yeah.
Cool. And one last thing would be just be a little more cautious of your in-betweens. If we look at, for example, this arm just here, if I go through, there's a few ups and downs as we go through the animation, especially here. The hand kind of comes back and then forward, like there's a slight pop there. And here, the size of the forearm. So that just comes by using your onion skin in the softwares you're using, or if you use traditional on paper, flipping and just making sure all the in-betweens and the volumes are correct. Cool. One thing with the particular style, which I'm kind of guessing you're trying to replicate the style that they animate the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's very shape language orientated. So it's all to do with changing the shapes completely and how dynamic a pose can be versus the next one. So each pose is so different from the previous. So in here, I'd really accentuate this curve that you've got here, which is really quite nice, by dragging the shoulders further. So you can really emphasize the weight by having different elements of the body moving before others. So for example, when he goes to pick this up, his hands are obviously attached to this heavy object and all his momentum can go back, but the shoulders can stay where they are. And you can really stretch out from the spine to the shoulder, this shape here, which would help emphasize the weight and then snap into the flick upwards. So this is nice. You've got lots of really nice diverse shapes here with the hands going up and the body going down. What I would have to emphasize the speed of this is I would have this particular frame here as a stretch or a smear to help accentuate the speed and the violent nature of the jump. I feel like it would help really bring an element of life to that, more so than what's already going. Unless you've got any specific questions, I think we'll move on to the next one. Because
Anna says that she has no questions for now.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
No worries. So from Anna to Anna.
The answer's still no. Absolutely and unequivocally no.
So next we have Anna Перевозчикова, and now I will ask Anna to tell a little bit about you. So Anna planned to be an illustrator, but she got to the courses and now she works as animator for half of the year in Freelance.
Cool. So let's have a look. I'll commend you on the voice actor choice. He's a great actor. So it's a nice performance. One thing that stands out here is there's a nice style going on there, but there's a lot of movement. What I would say is pick your keys and decide what, if there's going to be parts that are going to be constantly moving, maybe try to offset their timing. So, for example, the arms are kind of moving in a very fluid motion. If we was to have a couple of holds in there, and then whilst one's kind of going in a slow ease, the other one then kind of continues moving, it will help make that performance a bit more visually interesting. Something else is, if we look at just the arms, so the lower arm from elbow to wrist, whenever throughout the scene, they're constantly in this perspective, they're not foreshortened. I'd say don't be afraid to add some foreshortened arms and hands in there to add a bit more realism and perspective to the performance. So if we watch it back, if it plays, here we go. We only ever see the arms kind of in this perspective, here, 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 here. If we was to have some foreshortened, especially around this wrenching of the towel or cloth. It would be nice if the arms and the hands could come in front of the body and have that foreshortened angle. So say, be careful of volumes in the in-betweens. So this is a really nice key here. And then when we get to the next one, we just lose a bit of solidity within the neck and shoulders. If you're going for a more squished style, that's fine. But then the volumes themselves would then have to squish and smear in the in-betweens. This shoulder feels, just in this scene, because of the lapel of this apron, it just feels a bit flat and like a cutout piece. It fixes itself around here, where we get that break in the line, and we get this, we can see the angle of the neck and the shoulders. But yeah, just something to be cautious of. This is a nice fluidity and foreshortening in here that, you know, we was missing here. So you can do it. So this is a nice fun test, a nice way of showing off. And you've done a really nice job of it. I'd say the one thing that we're missing is just a bit more, like there's lots of energy in here in the motion and the keys and what the performance is. I feel like we could be a lot more dynamic. So something we could do here, because this is a real fun place to be as dynamic as possible, is with this head. It's always nice to, if we ever foreshorten things or bring things close to camera, that's where we want the most detail, because it's kind of a trick of the eye, where the closer to camera we are, the more detail you see in my hand, but the further away, the details disappear and they blend into each other. Same with animation. The closer we are to camera, the more details we can draw. The further from camera we are, the less details we can draw. I'm having some TV paint issues again. What I want to do is draw an example of what I mean. Here we go. So we could really, sorry, there's a bit of lag on the lines, so I'm going to draw quite slow. So if we was to do something like that, that's much more fun and dynamic. You really push it towards camera. If we imagine these perspective lines, that will help us. So we can then do that with anything and really play with what we can get as close to camera. And this in turn makes the shot so much more fun and energetic and dynamic. Yeah. There's some real nice, you got some nice fast motions in here. So this one could really be pushed, you know, because there's such a fast snap between the two frames. I'd really have some fun with the drawing and make it as crazy as you can. No, some nice work. I just, yeah, my main feedback on that one would just be add more dynamic and energy. It's already got a lot of energy, but we could make it much more fun. The great thing is when you have a shot like this one, it's a chance to show off your subtleties and how cautious and careful you can be in your performance. So when we get shots like this one, just go nuts.
Anna has no questions and she says, thank you so much for feedback.
No worries.
Go to Taco Bell. I'm on an all-carb diet. God, Karen, you are so stupid.
So we are going to the next student. And it's Ekaterina Gildebrand. She can introduce herself in both Russian and English. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kate. Basically, I found animation school through Edward. I was actually a big little fangirl of his when I was younger, still am. I always saw myself in animation. I wasn't really good at it for a long while. I'm also kind of a novice, so my first kind of trying like stuff in animation came through the school. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so good when I don't have to work. I like it.
I know. I work as a translator, so I get it.
Oh yeah. It must be a cringe listening to me because I'm like, not translator.
No, you're very good. I'm glad that I don't have to like do anything. I just get stressed secondhand.
Oh.
TV Paint's working now. I think it's because we've closed down a couple, so the TV Paint can handle it. Am I on the correct show rule here? Sorry. Yeah, cool.
Sure.
It's a bit laggy, sorry. How are you finding animation so far?
I love it. I'm not really a fan of like doing long, like laborious, monotone tasks, but animation for some reason, you know, you just get to like switch from one frame to another. If you're not stuck with the same picture for like 17 hours. Well, you get stuck between two really similar ones, but they're still different. So
Not liking this. Sorry, guys. It's just a bit slow. I'm going to hopefully try and cut down and put some mark-ins so it's easier to play. So I'd say okay, I've just seen the course 2 on the side. So is this a compilation of different courses whilst on your overall course?
Basically, yeah, we have 4 courses, and through different courses we do like different things. And so I have a full reel in another one, and there's like course 1 till 4, but I just pick kind of the stuff I like most.
Cool. So when compiling a show reel, the main thing I try and tell new students is to get rid of as many exercises as possible. So the walk cycles, the run cycles, bouncing balls, things like that, they're great to learn from, but they're exercises for you to learn from, and then you move on and do better things after you've kind of done that introduction. So if you can not have them sort of things in your show reel, then obviously that's going to benefit. So what I would do is right now at this stage, compile your show reel with your best works, and where you've got all your walk cycles and stuff like that, that's what you should be aiming to replace with your next piece of work. So when you do your next one, that's you take that one out and put the new bit in, and then another walk cycle, you take that bit out and put another bit in. And slowly over time, you will help build your show reel to a much stronger one.
So wait, you think that walk cycles are not good enough to put into a demo reel? Because we were told that, at GoldenWolf, that if we just manage to do like a cool front walk cycle, everyone would want us to hire us like straight after the school. So it's not right.
I would argue no, but lots of people will argue otherwise. The reason I would argue no is because if you had a walk cycle and a performance piece, which do you think would show your animation skills more so?
Yeah, of course, a performance piece. But
yeah, because you're able to get so much more into it. With a walk cycle, yeah, you can have a sense of emotion and a general performance and a thought process in the character and stuff like that. But it loops, and you can get away with a lot of stuff in the loop. With a performance piece, there's nowhere to hide. You have to be very cautious of your eases, your arcs, your weight, your anticipation, timing, spacing. Everything is on show, and you can't hide anything in the loop. If you want to be really faithful to the walk cycle, you can put a walk cycle within a performance.
Oh yeah.
But see, for example, this shot, same character, but so much more in it that we can get from you as an animator versus the walk cycle. So if you was to do another shot like this, or similar performance-based stuff like this, it would outweigh what would make you more employable versus the walk cycle. In this, I can tell that you have a sense of perspective and depth awareness and stuff like that, as well as scale and perspective. Yeah, so the only one thing I'd say that you could do to improve this is you've got a nice sense of sort of swing as she's holding this propeller thing. You could play with that in the perspective. You already have done, but you could push that some more as well. Mainly as she's going away from camera. I'll get to it in a second. My TV Paint's just been very slow. So you could really push things like this, and then you could have it smear as it then comes back into perspective. Because here it loses its line of action. We always talk about lines of actions and things. If I go on the next frame, it's kind of a crisscross at the moment. There's no clear shape and silhouette. And in that drag, as she's being pulled back, you can really emphasize that long sweeping line. Nice. So I think one thing that could really help here is you've got this nice change of angle here. And at the moment, the elbow and the face are coming around at a very similar timing. If you was to offset that, it would make that feel a lot more fluid and real. So for example, if the elbow came around first and then the head came around in a different timing. So that would just be a case of offsetting the motions, which you can do on the one layer. But what I would do in this instance is if I've animated it on the one layer and it's all kind of feeling a bit fluid, a bit samey in the timing, I'd take a new layer and just take one part of the animation that I want to offset and redo that on a separate layer, and then bring it back onto that one layer. Because we've got the ability of doing everything in layers so quickly and easily in digital softwares, we don't need to kind of, I've got to reanimate it all on paper and do it on, we can do it all so quickly and efficiently like this. So I'd drag the head just a touch more. And what I'd do is I'd cut this frame out of the head, and then I'd stamp it here, a couple layers in front. And it's an easy way of reusing what you've already got, but just offsetting the timing a touch. And then eventually it would catch up to itself, and then you can carry on as normal. It's a super simple, quick trick. So something here, I feel like you may have animated this within this resolution. What I would have done is maybe animated it at just a touch bigger, so maybe a 10-15% scale. And what we tend to call that is our safe zone in the industry. So you animate a touch bigger so you can cut in, because one of the things that you can do is you can sometimes accommodate your drawings to fit on screen, which sometimes alters the realities of the volumes. So for example, here, the elbow and the shin just shrinks a touch. And so if I was to get rid of my drawing, it kind of just moves on itself really awkwardly. And so what we could do is focus on this arc instead. So it comes up, it'll let me draw, and then come down and then swoosh up. But by doing that, that would be the hand arc, but then the elbow arc would then just come up straight away. Yeah, so between these two frames, they're on volume, if it'll let me go. And it's just the in-betweens where the elbow just gets a bit squished up. If I turn my drawings off now, you might be able to just see where the elbow, because you could accommodate the elbow, just comes up just a touch. And then it comes back down. And then it works really nicely again. Something as well is there's a lot of motion in this. Kind of she's having a go, and she's being very violent with her actions. It might be nice to have a moment just before she turns for her to kind of gather herself, because then that allows us as a viewer to have that break between when there's so much violent action. Our mind needs to go like, calm down, stop. And so it'd be nice to have that shouting and then turn, just a beat, just to allow us to gather and get back into the scene, and then for her to come back. And that would just help the performance have that kind of variety, and us to be able to understand her thoughts and start to empathize with her. It can sometimes be tricky animating the more simpler characters, because you have less details to play with, less details to kind of get different emotions and different actions across. So something I like to do when I've got those sort of characters is play with their shapes. So if you'll let me draw. So here you've got a nice, what's going on? Okay. You've got a nice drag line of action going on here, but we're very confined and squished up in terms of the silhouette. If we was to block all this out and just make it one sort of color, it's not very clear what's going on. So just to break up the silhouette a bit more, I'd maybe just so we can see under there, under the head. And be able to see what the legs are doing. Just get that back to a pen. Because then you can have that fun shapes here. So she's got this curve going up, there's the arcs going that way. And then here I'd start to have it pendulous and swing out, and then here start swinging back, you know, so it makes it a fun kind of fluid action there. So again, in the shape language with this action here, there's a nice silhouette you've got there, but I just offset and make the timing just a bit more fun and snappy. So you could have the hand reach out and then he comes up and then puts hand in, you know, close the mouth. Oh, what's going on? And maybe just a bit, you could have some anticipation in there as well. So he comes up back before he goes from reaches. So we're mainly looking at this silhouette kind of moving around and how it changes shape. That just makes those sort of performances look more fun. Nice. I presume this is part of a short film?
Yeah, we directed it together, but we're not allowed to show the whole thing because we're trying to send it to a couple of festivals.
Sure. Is the, what's the general kind of vibe of this shot? Is it supposed to feel a bit kind of menacing and scary?
No, this is supposed to be like cute and fun. Basically, okay. Like we're spoiling. This is the finale, but I mean, I worked at it. I want to show it.
For cute and fun, I, as a general rule, try and avoid teeth. They tend to make things feel a bit violent. And if you are going to draw teeth, they need to be really kind of specific in their design. So they're a bit more round and more like marshmallows than teeth. Mm-hmm. But that's a design note, really. Let me know if you've got any specific questions. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next.
No specific questions. Everything's good. Thank you.
No worries.
We live, we fight, and we die for each other, not for you.
Yeah. Who is next?
Ekaterina
Merkulova, right? Yes. So right now we'll ask Ekaterina to introduce yourself, if you can. So Ekaterina, her profession used to be an artist teacher, but then she decided to try out animation. So she took courses, and right after the first class, she actually got a job, and she was working in a studio at the same time as taking the courses. At the moment she works at Studio Melnitsa. It's a pretty famous studio in Russia, in St. Petersburg, right? At the moment they don't have work as character animators, but they make a fix. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Some really nice work. This is it's a really fun shot and a great showreel piece. Main thing is this part of a short film, or is it just a test?
This particular piece was just made for an assignment. It's not a part of the film.
Okay.
There was supposed to be another scene, but Ekaterina didn't add it into the demo reel.
Yeah, basically in our course we have 4 classes as Kate mentioned before. So first class is just basics, second class is body mechanics, third one is acting, and fourth it's like a group short film.
Okay. So the main thing, I think the animation in this is really nice. What I would say is to make this more of a impactful scene is the timing of when things happen. So at the moment, these birds flutter off really like at the start, but then she kind of comes out really quickly towards that. So we don't get a sense of those individual elements. I'll pause there because then I'll talk some more. Main thing is because if we was to understand this shot, she is running away from this character and the birds are reacting to her running away from this character. So the main reason for the birds in this shot is to anticipate her action. And then when we see her running, we don't know what she's running from yet. And then there needs to be a slight beat, and then the villain is, resolved. He comes around the corner. So I think there's just a touch. I'd push her timing just a little later, so we get a sense of birds, slight beat, then her. We understand that the birds have flown up because of her action, and then a slight beat for us as the audience to think, what is she running from? And then the villain is revealed to us. And what I would say is, if we wanted to make this just a touch more impactful, I maybe would have pushed the perspective a touch. Let's go back to the front. So that she ran closer to camera, but that's story stuff, so it's kind of irrelevant, really. But I think you've got some really nice squash and stretch on this guy at the back. But I'd slowly start making him bigger to feel more threatening. I think her running is really nice, but there's just a little bit of change here. She kind of snaps a bit violently on that particular frame here. Is these legs, the silhouette. So what I would do is maybe carry on and then with the momentum of this foot is going up, up, up. So just carrying that arc all the way through. I think a much simpler arc like that would help the shot just feel a bit more dynamic. And something what I do in this particular part here, because her overall body language kind of stays the same. And I know it's really tricky because obviously you're animating this change of perspective, but try and incorporate something within that. But also just be careful of your volumes. Kind of this squashes here and then it comes back and then round this way. So if we was to kind of, so it's just this particular frame here where it just comes down a bit too far. The arc would kind of be here. So this would need to be there. just to help create a smoother line of a path of action. But if you feel confident enough, what I would also do within that fall is having the legs reaching and stepping within the air. If you was running with such intensity and fright, you're going to be kind of still moving within the air, and that would add a more sense of fright and violence to the motion. Even though she's falling and it's already violent, it adds just a bit more energy because she's not in this just one body language pose. Yeah, I'm getting carried away now. Sorry. Fair play. Scar is an incredibly difficult character to animate. The one thing with Scar is Andreas Deja does this really well. He's the animation supervisor behind Scar. Is he really captured the villainous of the character. And the main way he did that was in these real slow, evil, almost snake-like movements in his motion. So as he, in this initial lean in here, it's just a bit too sudden for Scar. Scar would kind of enjoy that, just really lean in and try and look deep in their soul with his eyes. So I'd take your key and really ease into it if possible, and delay that motion. So that key here. So between this one and that one, I'd have another 3 or 4 drawings. Something fun to do with characters with a large snout design like this is almost have this separate to everything else. So as he would bend down, having a bit of fluidity in this is sometimes quite fun and nice. Yeah, so again, similar to the start, as he comes up, there'd be a bit of overshoot where he'd just kind of he'd kind of settle in his own elegance, and he'd probably come up a bit higher than this. Something I like to do as if I'm trying to animate a curve and I'm rather than going through and drawing all the drawings and then losing track of what you want in the curve, something I do is I go through the drawings and say, right, I want this one to go up, I want this one to come around, and this one to stay, and this one down. So I create the arc with some arrows. It's sometimes nice to kind of plot things out before you start animating. It's kind of a cheat of doing of keeping the fluidity of straight ahead animation, but then you can go back in and choose your poses. So is this part of a film, or is this your own individual test?
It's just an assignment.
Yeah, it's an acting.
Oh, these are the rules from the Zeropolis. Oh, wait, it's Zootopia. Yeah. It's called Zootopia.
Oh, the designs from. Oh, okay, yeah. My main comment is excluding the last gesture. He's in this position quite a lot, which works. But I'd move him from that. His arms kind of stay here for most of it. So it just comes with body language and body shape.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Reg, what do you mean by excluding the last movement?
Because the gesture comes up like this.
Uh-huh.
It's when he's in this pose a little bit there, and then he changes his arms here.
Mm-hmm. I see it.
So same body language, same body language, same body language, and then he changes.
Is it is it good or bad? So it's not supposed to happen when you have.
If you got the same body language in the shot, then it can lose interest because unless the shot needs kind of subtlety, then I try and stay away from it, because the whole, you want to kind of diversify your keys so the visuals are interesting. So what's he doing in this shot, and I can maybe like think of what I do with it instead.
Okay, so basically this character is like an actor, so he's standing in front of the mirror, and he has some kind of a rehearsal, because there was supposed to be another shot, but again, Ekaterina didn't put it into the demo reel.
Yeah, so my main thing is just diversifying the body language and the silhouette. Even if it can just be simple as in the arms, you know. Even if he was to come up like that, it still changes things. Because there's really nice animation just within this area. This is lovely. But then just out here, it just gets a bit kind of stiff and just in the same place. Cool. Yeah. Have you got any questions at all?
Thank you.
No, we don't have any seconds. Okay, so now it's the turn of Dmitry Karpov. Dmitry, could you please introduce yourself? Dmitry, please start, пожалуйста.
Also, hi Reg, it's an honor to meet an animator from Wolfwalkers. Really great piece, by the way. Everything you need to know, like important information is then that's when I came to Edward, I was and I'm still quite a young guy with almost no experience in drawing. And now you can check out all of our hard work and tears in these animations. Also, just in case, I have a name from the Disney's movie Anastasia, Dmitry. That's all. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Cool. Where's the studio? We're back on studio one. Oh yeah, hoster. There we go. Cool. Some really nice stuff. Nice hand animation. They're very tricky things to animate.
Yeah.
The main thing with hands is trying to get the shape language in there. Like I've been saying, you've got some nice diversity in the shapes. The one thing we tend to kind of do with hands is we forget to draw them in the perspective of the shots. Sometimes it's tricky trying to remember what perspective there'd be. So I think for 99% of this shot, it's on point. It's on point to the perspective. But just, where is it? Just as the hand comes up, around here, we kind of lose, it becomes just a touch flat. It comes, the back of the hand comes a little too close to the camera. So what I would do here is just keep the curvature. I think what's causing the perspective is this thumb, because it's on the outside of the hand rather than on the inside. And it's a real subtle thing. But I think if we, for example, let's put that thumb here. We can see the fingers. That would then push it back in this perspective, just a touch, which would then in line with kind of the perspective that the bookcase is projecting in. But other than that, really nice. It's tricky as the one thing I would say with this shot is you've kind of made it tricky for yourself because all the animation is happening here. And you've got all this space out here with nothing in. So I think if you was just to move this book into center of frame, then you can, you know, you've got more room to play with the hand and the wrist and, you know, having it come towards more camera here, just have a bit more freedom rather than being constrained to this really small area on screen. So this is just a camera thing. When you've got a camera move and you animate on twos, there tends to be a bit of jarring like this. You can either do two things. One, keep the camera move on twos, or you animate everything on ones. Naturally, everyone wants to keep the camera move on twos because it's less work. But otherwise, this is a really nice piece. The one thing I would say is the arc on this frying pan is, I feel like it could be much bigger, especially with, as we come in with the camera, what you're trying to suggest. I feel like we could really bring frying pan I think you've got a nice arc there at the moment as it kind of comes around this way, just to accentuate that. But the only issue is we're kind of restricted with the camera at the minute. So if you was to have just an extra 10 or 15% of canvas to animate to, you'd be able to get that in there. Again, some nice hand stuff in there. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say, if I'm honest. The timing's really nice, the spacing. It's just making sure your arcs, and I'd maybe have some offset in the arms just to add that variety in the performance. Have you got any questions at all?
No, everything is very clear. I've noticed that I was very lucky to get almost all shots on a project with hands. It was like a challenge for me for this summer.
Yeah, I take that into now doing a bit more performance stuff. So you had a full body, you know, two hands, and you know, have some fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Who's next?
I am the queen. You listen to me.
So, Natalia, could you introduce yourself?
So yeah, my name is Natalia. I used to be a programmer, And I got into my first animation job by sheer chance, and remained there for 6 years on a position of cleanup guy. So eventually I got bored and decided to slightly upgrade myself. So yeah, I decided to enroll on these courses, and yeah, here we are. I'm quite finished.
How did you find cleanup?
Boring. It is the most boring part of animation.
Yeah, it can become. It's fun at first, but then it gets boring fast.
It's fun like first 2 years maybe when you are learning.
There's quite a lot of people that make that transition, because a lot of obviously when everyone gets started from graduation, they go into cleanup and then struggle to then make that next step. So they end up in cleanup for quite a long time. So I know a lot of people in a similar situation.
Yeah, 6 years, please.
So the main thing that I find from individuals that have done cleanup for so long, and you know they've been stuck in that, and then they want to try and progress to animation, is they're really good at the drawing part. So obviously that's what cleanup is, and their drawings are really clean and lovely. But because in cleanup you focus on one drawing so much, and then you move to the next drawing, and then the next drawing, and then the next drawing, a lot of people they kind of they don't know how to do offsetting or spacing and timing and stuff like that. And one thing I would say here, something that would help benefit this, is when she comes down, it's very one motion, which can be good, but I'd then either offset with one arm on a different timing as it comes down, which you've slightly done here. You've got the screen right arm just coming first there, and then it goes bang into this one shot. There'd need to be a bit more changed somehow in the drawings there, whether one kind of swivels internally like that or one kind of bounces up, just so it doesn't end so solidly. Because then she's in that held pose for just a beat. But then as she comes forward, it's just that one motion again. So it's just segregating those movements, which just comes with time and experience. And so I just have that come down a touch before it went back up. I'm drawing this really quickly, so it's not the best drawing. So and just by having that slight down there, it just makes it feel a bit more fluid and alive. And something completely different to the other one. I think your arc here just needs to work, because we come down here between these two frames, but then we go back up and then back down. So this particular frame I'd have just a touch lower. I know some animators, when they're roughing out their animation, they don't draw the arms. They draw the hands where they want the hand performance to be, and then rough in the arms later once they've got the motion of the hands correct. Because sometimes the arms and the elbow can distract you from where you want the hand. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'll let you. Yeah, and then the issue is here again, you've got the edge of the screen, so we can't really have that overshoot of the hand. Although the arm's getting quite long there, so maybe we'll have to pull it back. one thing I'd say with straight arms, they're really nice to have to accentuate things, but then I wouldn't keep things too straight for too long. If we look at this arm after that motion, so bang, that's a nice pose. That's really clear, gestural. But then here, as she's pulling up, it feels a bit kind of like she's being pulled from that arm, and it just feels a bit kind of, like that. So I then start to bend that arm back, which gives her a bit more elegance as well. Another thing that a lot of cleanup people do when they go into animation is they're very proud of their drawings, so they keep a drawing, and they're scared of changing the drawing, changing perspectives. So for example, if we just look at, hang on, stop, there we go. So if we look at her corset, just in this last motion, it's almost like one shape. And it might be nice if she was to kind of just have a slight twist within that, in that motion, just to kind of make it a bit more closer to camera. Yes, nice shape language in there. As I said earlier, with the same characters, with these types of characters, you need to change the shapes and the volumes, because otherwise it's not clear what's happening. Something you could do is just squash and stretch them. It's always fun in these sort of bouncy, I don't really know what to call them, sort of rodent runs. It's quite nice to have some squash and stretch in them. So you can just go to the next one. Yeah, so the animation is quite nice and snappy here, but there's just a little bit kind of lost in those snaps, which I feel could be more performance-y. So this head here, it kind of contradicts the other ones a touch. So we've got the heads going this way, heads this way, and then it comes this direction before then coming up here. I feel like a nicer in between would be kind of here, where that nose and the arc is going up that way. So I can maybe even push that nose up further on the arc. So this is fun with this hand coming close to camera, but the only issue is with this, it's a little unclear what's going on. So what I do is maybe, is it on a 1? No. Okay, so that's what I do. So I'd have this hand opening up just a touch more, so it's a bit more violent a silhouette. And then on a 1, just so we understand what's going on a bit more, so it's clearer in the silhouette. Maybe even straighten those fingers out so it's really violent. And that way it's kind of an arc towards camera. Because in these big motions like this, we can get away with having a 1, to really tell the audience what's happening. Have you got any questions at all?
Oh yeah. It's more like common question, general question. How do you unlearn these tendencies of cleanup people?
Experience, I guess, just doing more and learning from your mistakes. But also the issue is because you've been doing cleanup, you're kind of used to your drawings. So it's hard to be critical of your own stuff because you're so used to it. It's almost you need someone else to spot it. But I think it's just a case of trying and doing and trying and doing. One of the best things I find is when I do a piece of animation, I can like it until I show someone, and then because I'm showing someone else, I get really kind of conscious about all of my animation, and then I start spotting the mistakes even before they've said anything. So that can help in two ways. You can see it internally and they can point it out. But I think, it's tricky because, you've already got that experience. It's like, driving and, you pick up bad habits driving. If you were to do your driving test again, you're going to fail. Unfortunately, it's just a case of relearning. And last.
Thanks.
No worries.
Yeah, the last one.
Anna, you are the most extraordinary person I've ever known.
Now we are looking at the work of Kirill Siryak, right? Did I pronounce his name correctly? Kirill is 23 years old, and on the third year of his architectural college, he realized that he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to do it in the future. He doesn't enjoy it. So he started to think what he would like to do in his life. So he tried himself in video editing for himself and for other people. And once he stumbled upon Edward's invitation video to his courses, and he got very energized by the way Edward presented himself at the course. So he immediately decided to try it out, and he bought a course, and here we are.
Fun fact, I wanted to do architecture as well, but then I found out I didn't like maths. Cool. So just having a look at the first shot now. Love the film, by the way. It's one of my favorite films. So the start of this is really nice. Lots of nice motions in there. As he turns, the face becomes a little stiff. I think it's because the eyes are so elliptical, like Simpson eyes or something. And the head kind of stays in this one plane. There's a lot there, so I'll let you translate that. I feel like this head turn is very on the one perspective plane and one line. I think it would be nicer if he just had a bit of downward, just to make the motion a bit more interesting. Might be because the mouth stays quite samey as well. Yeah, I feel like this head tone could definitely do some work. I'm not doing a very good job of it at the minute. Like, yeah, maybe it's a bit too fast as well. But that's something something I'd say with that. Just make sure it's not too stiff a motion. Yeah, I'd maybe also, you've got some really nice kind of changes in weight in that turn, but then in this last section, he kind of stays solid on this one spot. So something to add a bit of interest in there. I'd maybe just have him lean a touch forward for this last key. Just because you've got so much like nice weight change and everything in here. It's tricky, these mid shots, because you've literally only got this to play with. So, you know, if you was to imagine the pelvis that's down on this seat under here, this is where all his weight is. And so he would, you know, bend from this position. So there would be some shift left and right up here. What's going on? Sorry, it's not loading properly. Is it playing okay for use? Yeah, the one thing I'd say with this is it's very stiff at the moment. There could be a lot more weight and gesture in here. If we just, for example, look at the neck to the head, it's almost like a pole. You know, it's not got any kind of flex in it. So something to help or diversify would be just kind of maybe tweaking some of the perspective of the keys, of the perspective in the keys. So we choose this, for example, this, and this. Let's go between these. Oh. Oh, why does it keep doing that? Sorry, guys. So here we So for this one, I'd probably pull it just a touch round. So he drops this shoulder. You can kind of lean with a slight forwards motion. And as he comes back, there's a twist in this direction. So his body's kind of doing this instead. Because then he'll come back round. Just to add diversity in that. So it's not just this one kind of square that's going up and down. There's some, you know, gesture. And a lot of that can be within the hands. When the hands go this way, if I keep my body trying to face forward, my hands will pull my body around. But you've handled the in-betweens really well, and you've got a lot of patience. Something I'd say as well is there could be a little flex in the hair. At the moment, the hair's quite stiff. And so I'd, you know, just have a bit more fluidity in that, because then that will offset to the rest of the performance and makes it feel more real. And with this head, don't be afraid to bring this collar down to have the, you know, the spherical nature of the neck to come forward. Yeah. So a neck like that, you know, would help push the head closer to us.
Также шея поможет нам погнуть голову ближе к камере, по перспективе.
And again, it's just erasing this line here, because then in that, where's the other drawing gone? Yeah, here. If I do that, it makes it feel much more foreshortened, because this element is in front of this element. But nice start, really nice stuff. I think what you've done in this shot is probably all you could do in terms of the perspective of this guy. The only thing, yes, I'll go up again. I think you could make the head bigger of this guy, just because it just make it so much more impactful. I quickly just trace that. You know, you could really push it and bring it forwards. It just depends how far you're willing to go. There's not much kind of tilt in the head. So at the top here, that one, and then as the angle kind of stays the same-ish, maybe here it could be more actually looking at a character. So we start, you know, think of the sphere. It goes from up here to down here. Cool. Do you have any questions at all?
No, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, we looked at all the works of all the students, I guess. And now it's time to respond to the questions. It's like the part of the stream. I know you've been talking for 3 hours straight. Oh my God, it's so much.
Time flies.
Okay, Now to the questions. So the first like bunch of questions like for these were the ones which were sent prior to the stream, and other 5 or 6 questions were sent by people during the stream. So now the first question. I will first read it in Russian. It was, wow, such an interesting question. I would like to try to translate. So, person is asking, what would be the correct way of showing the character, like kind of raising their leg from the place, as though they're gathering the energy for the rush,
like a forward run or something.
Yeah, like a forward run, and then this person says that they don't know how to break the broken. I forgot how to say the words of stuff. The broken joint of the leg on which he transfers the weight. I don't understand whether this character has a broken leg, or when they what? Okay, I don't understand the question. Did you?
I kind of get it. So if a character's going to run,
yeah.
So we've got this character, and he's going to run in this direction. How would he raise that first leg? First, you know, there'd be some anticipation, which would always start in the arms. So let's just kind of, let's do some generic arms. So if he was going to run in this direction, there'd be the anticipation first, which would, you know, the arms would come up. Hopefully that answers the question. If the character was going to run off, there'd be some anticipation, but it depends how they've started the performance. If they started running still, started standing still, then they'd need to kind of anticipate the action and then run off. And it would be a down and then an up as they come forward, and the other arms would then project forwards. And so there'd be this constant motion like this. If there's a kind of a recoil in a spring, the recoil would be the down and then it'd spring up.
So the question is, did you or any of your acquaintances faced this a problem like pain in your wrists, neck, or spine because of you drawing too much?
Yeah.
If yes, how do you handle it? Do you like do exercises like or something else?
So for the wrist, if you ever feel pain in your wrist, stop. You need to take a break, because that, you know, can lead to permanent damage. The best things I can recommend for the wrist is don't have your Cintiq too high, because if you have your Cintiq high, your wrist is like this as you're drawing. If you have it low, then it's a much more ergonomic position. I recommend not sitting in a desk chair for too often. If possible, I recommend like a stool or an ergonomic chair. I don't use a desk chair, so there's no back to my chair, it's just a stool. And I found that really helps me, because when you're in a desk chair all day, you have something to lean on. And so your lower back doesn't get used. And so it just kind of goes loose and, you know, it loses its strength. If you have a stool, you engage your core more and you get rid of any back problems. If you have neck issues, then it's usually because you're working like this, which I don't recommend.
The question is not new. Which are the most common mistakes in work on the, I guess it's acting scene, and how can you handle the work with several characters in the best way possible?
So what was the first question? Was it acting?
Yeah, the most common mistakes in acting, I guess.
I guess the most common would be either overacting or underacting, which doesn't help because, you know, there's a very fine line between the two. But I feel like if it depends on the scene that you're animating. If you're animating in the style of Looney Tunes, then they're going to enjoy that overacting, bouncy sort of stuff. If you're animating something that's more, you know, Pocahontas, then it's going to be realistic acting. It's not going to be squash and stretch and loose and stuff like that. So I think the most common mistakes is not understanding the style of animation that is required.
How can a newbie or an amateur person, how can they get how can they even get an internship in a real studio?
Just applying. Usually, I mean, we've just hired an intern at Blink, and we're doing a 3-month, hopefully rolling contract where every 3 months there'll be a new intern. And the application process was we asked people to do a test, you know, a real quick thing with the studio logo. And based on that, we chose people who we liked the tests, and we narrowed it down to about 10 people who did a good test. And then from that, we started looking at their other work, their show reels and their portfolios, and then we narrowed it down to 5 people. And then we conduct a one-on-one interview, and we'll ask questions. And based on that interview, then that's how we choose.
Yep, this question is actually in English. Hello, I want to ask you what advice you can give to the person at the beginning of their animation way, how to plan the time and practice, how to fight with burnout. I will translate in Russian straight to not forget to translate it later. Do you remember the question, or I should?
I've just got it up now. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, is it in the chat? Oh, wait, no, it's not in the chat.
No. Yeah, so basically the question is, which advice can you give to the person at the beginning of their animation way? How can they plan time and practice, and how can they fight with burnout?
I guess the time and practice element it's personal to them because it depends how much they can commit. You know, everyone has their own obligations, whether it be a job or whether it's with family. You know, it depends. Everyone's different in terms of how much time they have. What I'd recommend is trying to be consistent with it. Even if you can do an hour every day, that's still, you know, some consistency. And it's not, you know, if you do, for example, 5 hours every Saturday, you may kind of forget where you was, you know, in a week's time. So if you try and keep things consistent, even if it's maybe a Saturday and a Wednesday, you know, it's only a couple days in between, at least things are still fresh on your mind. I'll let you say that one first.
I guess next one is how to fight with burnout, right?
Yeah, for burnout, it's usually because you've exhausted whatever you're practicing at that point. So, for example, if you're, you know, struggling for ideas generation, it's usually because you've been doing ideas generation so much, you've got to a point where you can't think of new ideas. In that sense, I would usually take a step back and do something else. If it's, you know, another hobby of yours, or whether it's a different avenue of, you know, life drawing or character design or something like that. It's usually when you take a step back, you're able then to kind of reflect and get going again. Depending on how big the burnout is, would depend how long you need to stop. If you're really struggling, then obviously you might need to take a week or two. But everyone gets them, and they're not uncommon.
So also, I really like Ethel and Ernest. It is a great cartoon, and I wanted to ask you how was made the aquarelle feel of the animation?
What was the last bit, sorry?
How was made the watercolor feel of the animation?
Okay. So it's mainly within the coloring that there'll be, what they'll do is they'll obviously clean up in that particular style. So the animation will be done at a normal sort of level where all the volumes and all the lines are drawn. And then when it goes to clean up, they won't draw every line. They'll kind of draw, some of the lines. Or they'll draw the full lines, but then go over them and color the elements that are going to be missing a different color so they can kind of erase them in comp. Does that make sense? So, for example, if I was to draw the outside line of my face, and it'll be black here, and then this part would be green. And then in comp, they'd key out the green, and so it'd look like there's just the line that ends here. But then I've got a full shape, even though it's two different colors, and I can color inside the shape. I've done a quick example on the screen share. So I've drawn a circle. The black line I want to keep, and the blue line is going to be erased. We'd then color that inside. So the color would be, red. We just fill color that in, and then I go back onto the cleanup layer and erase the blue, which then does that.
So the question is, which are the criteria in which you can define what's your level? If you are a junior, middle, or senior animator, or when can you decide that you are already a middle or a senior animator?
This is a tricky one because it's 50-50 in terms of you decide and the client decides. Obviously, if you apply for a lead animator position and the client says you're not good enough, then you're not a lead animator yet. But also it comes with experience. Obviously, everyone starts at the lowest level. There'll be some with natural talent, but they've still got to put the time in, and there'll still be weaknesses in their armor. Usually you start at junior and you aren't mid-level until about 2 or 3 years experience. Because after 2 or 3 years, you've worked on at least, 4 or 5 different productions. You've gained all that experience, and those 4 or 5 different productions should be enough animation content to replace all of your junior level showreel. So you have a junior level showreel, you do mid-level productions until that mid-level is your showreel. And then you do mid-level productions until that's now your showreel. And that's how you climb up the ladder.
Which type of work do you find more productive, in a studio or freelance, like being at home? If you're working from home, do you have any life hacks to how to organize your working time and how not to get distracted by anything?
I prefer working at home if I'm left to do my own animation. But if I need to supervise a team, then it benefits me being in studio because I can be one-on-one with directors and producers and stuff. But that's personal preference. I know a lot of people that are much more productive in studio versus home. So, it's kind of all personal preference there. In terms of optimizing your work-life balance, the best thing I can recommend is moving your workstation to a completely different room and segregating it to home if possible. That's obviously if you've got the space to do that. If you can separate it, then you work and home life don't become kind of conjoined.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like arranging a working place.
Yeah, if you have an arranged working place, or you have a separate bedroom that can be just used for that.
it's another question from the same person. They ask, which books or exercises would you recommend for one to develop, I don't know how to say, it's like when you're catching stuff by eye, so like you're, I don't know. So the person means watching the details and understanding of volumes.
Okay. Books. I mean, there's so many books out there. It's ridiculous, and it's kind of hard to recommend just one. One that I know helped me was a book called Cartoon Animation by an author called Preston Blair. It's quite an old book and probably a little younger than the Animation Survival Kit, which everyone knows. But I'd recommend. There's so many courses available now online and lots of tutorials and stuff like that. It's so easily accessible to find exercises and feedback and tutorials and stuff like that. There's an online one called the 51 animation exercises. If you just type that in, you'll be able to find them. And it's just 51 basic examples, but it's already, it's an example already made for you, so you don't have to create an idea. So it can almost be like a task sheet. You just work your way down. And at the end of that, you've got 51 experiments where you've been able to play and test and stuff like that. So I'd recommend that.
Right. I guess that's it. And about this whole thing about volumes and stuff, I guess it's all in the animation exercise. So
yeah, volumes is it's in any kind of exercise or test book. But it all comes with time, and life drawing is one of the best ways of understanding volume and being able to move it in space. If you drew something foreshortened from this angle and then this angle and this angle, you can start to understand how volumes work.
Yeah, I think that's it, because I am refreshing this document with questions and I believe nobody edited anything. Yes, I'm very happy and everyone is happy because we spent like 3 hours and a half here.
That was a long one.
It's a world record of being online. Okay, so congratulations to everyone with your graduation from Edwards courses. You are now professional animators. Thank you so much to Reg Isaac for helping us today and giving us an amazing feedback.
No worries.
And I guess everyone is very happy. Me as well, because I also had like a free lesson. Okay, thank you so much to everyone, and see you next time.
Hello everyone, my name is Edward Kurczewski, and I want to invite you to our new course, Short Film Creation. This course is divided by 4 directions: animation, visual development, 2D FX animation, and compositing. This is a unique opportunity to get experience in teamwork and also try a real studio process in a short amount of time. At the first month, you will come up with your idea, create a storyboard, and also with the help of visual development team, you will create a unique design to your world and story. At the second month, you will work on your individual shots, dividing the work among yourself. At the third month, 2D FX artist will complement your shots with suitable visual effects. At the end of the project, a group of compositors will start to assemble your project and add cinematic feel to the picture. You can join one of these courses right now. Detailed information of the course in the description. See you there.